All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you guys. We are here on our ministry update call. This is our second time through here for the second quarter, and Rick and I are excited to be able to share some new updates. And we have a guest speaker with us today. But just a couple housekeeping things before we get going. I'm going to kick us off with prayer in just a second here. But while the whole time we're recording this. And we're going to be sending this out after the last call on Friday. So if you forget something or need to kind of, get re-updated, we will have this. This will be recorded. So, have no fear on that. Also, at any time, feel free to type a question into the chat if you have any kind of question. And Rick will be monitoring that and giving a reply or taking those down for us to get a more detailed answer later on. But a little bit about the call. This is just kind of meant to be able to hopefully inspire and encourage you and update you on some of the latest stuff. We've got a guest speaker with us here from Church Engagement, the fantastic Lori Lee, and she's going to talk about some new resources that we have access to. Yvonne, I know you've been seeing kind of more about some of this stuff, and some of you guys on the call that I see are familiar with that, but you'll hear a little bit about that. And then I've got a couple brief updates. Rick does as well, and we'll hopefully stick to a 60-minute time frame as much as possible. But I'm going to kick things off with prayer, and then I'm going to introduce Lori, and we'll get going here. Would you pray with me? God, I thank you and praise you for this opportunity through the gift of technology that we have to be able to come together, to be able to encourage each other, to be able to just be able to be present with one another and share what you are doing in and through this ministry here at Compassion. I thank you for these new tools and these new resources, God, that have inspired me and really just opened my eyes to just some new ways that we can engage with what you're doing through this ministry. And so give us just attentive minds to be able to hear what it is that you're wanting us to do and how you're leading in this time and in this place through Compassion. So we love you. We're here to glorify you and always say and do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Well, to start things off, I am going to introduce our experts here in some of these new resources. And this is Lori Lee, who comes to us from Church Engagement. And she's a Church Engagement manager. And I got to tell you that she presented these materials to Rick and Greg and I and some of our other team members, and we were just incredibly just wowed by them. I just feel like this is a time that we have some incredible tools. We've had some other great tools and some books, but these are just kind of unique and special, and I just feel like they're especially relevant for the time that we're in. And so, Lori Lee, take it away.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me. Nice to meet you guys. I wanted to let you know I'm on the church marketing and engagement team. So I engage churches, but I also am on this marketing team that help create resources for churches. And so just know we realize that because we have this unique opportunity to engage churches, we want to resource them. And so that's a real focus that we're going to be doing in the next year to 3 years. We want to create resources for every demographic in the church. So if you have a friend that's a children's minister, Step Into My Shoes is fantastic. If you have a small group pastor or an executive pastor that you're talking with, the resource that we're going to talk about in the second 20 minutes will be a great resource. But we're creating women's resources. We'll be creating VBS resources and youth ministry resources. So those things are coming down the pipeline. So these are the two things that we're going to talk about today are one for children's ministers and the other one's for like a small group pastor. Or if it's a small church, you could be talking to the pastor or the volunteer that's working with the small groups or Sunday school or whatever you call it. So Step Into My Shoes, I think you're probably familiar with it, but let me kind of give you a little background. So we had the first one, Step Into My Shoes, Africa. It's actually Uganda. And that came out about 4 years ago. And what we found was we had incredible results. We had churches saying that this was an incredible resource, asking for more, and we also did some empirical research with Fuller Youth Institute. That's who was our co-collaborator on these two resources, Step Into My Shoes 1, Step Into My Shoes 2, which we're going to kind of, I'm differentiating for you, but we're going to call it Step Into My Shoes Uganda and Step Into My Shoes the Philippines. So we did some research with FYI, and we found that families were actually praying more, giving more, and having more spiritual conversations because of this first resource. And that's incredible that we can actually say we have some data behind it. And so we're doing research again with this second one. And what we found was that any kind of tool that can engage the family and let the church and the children's minister be the hero. I mean, we're all about that because we want that church in the developing world to be the hero. Same thing in the U.S. In the developed world. So Step Into My Shoes Philippines is the brand new resource that has come out in the last 2 months. So it's pretty much hot off the shelves. We're just starting to promote it. The website's not even live. So that kind of tells you where we are. It should be ready December 1. That's what we're hoping. It was supposed to be ready mid-November. We'll get some snags. But that website, stepintomyshoes.org, will have both the Step Into My Shoes Uganda and the Step Into My Shoes Philippines. So you can be able to engage churches with either one of those. So, but today's call is on the one that's in the Philippines. And I want to start by telling you, those of you who have used, and I know some of you have used Step Into My Shoes, I want to tell you the similarities and then some differences that you're going to encounter in the second version. So both experiences have 4 steps of curriculum that is video-based, and there's discussion questions, there's an activity, and there's a prayer reminder. So that's 4 weeks of curriculum. We say 4 steps because if they really want to use it in a weekend, they can. But it's designed to be sequential. So they would really want to go through all 4 steps to kind of get the holistic picture of the experience. So similarities, they both have 4 steps. They both have a family devotional toolkit. And that is, it pairs beautifully with the curriculum because, the night that they are, after they've gone through the first day of the curriculum, the family can go through the first step of the family devotion, and it beautifully pairs. So 4 steps, 4 devotions, and then there's this 90-minute family. We're calling it a KidMin experience because if you're working with churches, that is the phrase that they're using, KidMin. It's children's ministry, but they're calling it KidMin. That's the kind of catchword. So we're calling it the 90-minute family KidMin experience. So both Step Into My Shoes have 4 steps of curriculum, 4 steps of family devotions, and that 90-minute family experience. And that family experience can be used by itself or as a celebration of the curriculum that's starting, or it can be used as a wrap up. And that's the 90-minute last hurrah celebration kind of service for that curriculum, or you don't have to use it. Why we created that 90-minute, I think it's important for you to know. We heard churches say, we have curriculum throughout the year. We don't have 4 weeks we can give you. And so we said, okay, well, what would you give us? And they said, we could give you a night or a day. And we said, okay, we'll create that 90-minute family experience so they can plug in if they need some kind of experience throughout the year that kind of motivates families to come in and serve together with their kids. The differences are, so Step Into My Shoes Uganda follows a family through those 4 steps. It's Pastor Tom and Mama Nancy and their 12 kids. Amazing story. They're a compassion family. They're a compassion church. You see how Mama Nancy goes to the marketplace. You see how Rebecca, their daughter, goes and gets water. but you follow a family. Step Into My Shoes, the Philippines, is actually focused on children. So there's 4 steps of different kinds of kids, all in different age ranges. So you'll have a little boy at the beginning, and then you'll have a little girl at the second step named Leah, and then you'll have a third step with Audrey May, and then the 4th step is actually a brother and sister, and they're teenagers, and they have a very cool story about how God has changed their life and how they're giving back. So that's differences. Another difference would be one of the really cool things about the new family devotions in Step Into My Shoes Philippines is the fact that there's a virtual reality component in the family piece. So I'm going to show you kind of the box. So this is the family devotional box that families get. And so say I was a parent, which I am, but my child is going through that 4th step at the church, and I get to take this home, and this is something that Compassion provides. And what we're doing is our goal is to provide these free for families that participate. I mean, that's how our team is using them, but your team can decide how you're going to use that. But this family devotional, like I said, coincides with the steps, and it has the virtual reality goggles in it. And so what you do is my smartphone, I don't know where I put it, but you just put your smartphone on it, and then you look through, and that magnifies the experience. It's a 360 virtual reality experience. There's instructions in your box that tell you exactly how to download the videos, and then there's 4 boxes or 4 steps of devotions that go, like I said, that correspond with the 4 steps of curriculum. There is a sponsorship ask in this component right here, this family toolkit, because what we found was families, after going through this experience, want a way to give back. And what a beautiful way to give back is to give back with compassion and sponsor a child. So in that video, the 4th video there, yep, perfect, Matt. That's exactly how it looks. And so when you watch that 4th video, you're going to learn about the two teenagers, and there's going to be a very soft ask to sponsor if they feel led to do that. The 4 steps of curriculum doesn't really have a hard ask. I think it's important for you to know what's the end result that we want from this experience. Like we want them to go through the 4 steps of curriculum as a children's ministry, but there's not a hard ask. There's an ask, there's a conversation about what sponsorship does and how that really affects the life of a child. But we think the best opportunity for a family to sponsor is within their family, or for sponsorship to happen is within their family when they're watching that video. But I wanted to tell you that if you don't want to use the goggles, you could still download the videos, and you could just take your smartphone and you can look around because it's 360. This just enhances the experience. It makes you feel like you're there and that you can actually reach out and touch things. So, family toolkit. The 4 steps, I think it's important for you to understand what the concept of the theme for Sims Uganda was giving from your enough. We just kind of paint the picture of, in the U.S., you may not have a lot, but you have enough. And out of that enough, you have opportunities to give. With Sims 2.0, or the Philippines one, this is about calling, community, and connection. Those are the 3 C's that we're going to talk about in the Philippines. So the first step says, the theme is you're called to follow Jesus. And so you're seeing that theme through the eyes of that child in the Philippines. The second step is called to be the church. And again, you're going to see that theme through the eyes of a child in that second step of curriculum. That third one is we're called to care for others. And the 4th one is we're called to take the next step. So when they go through those 4 steps, it's important for you to know also that each of the steps are about an hour worth of curriculum. And again, it has a video in it. It has an activity in it. It has a Bible focus, and it has a prayer reminder. Every single one of those 60 minutes. It's incredible content. In the 90-minute version, again, we're calling this the KidMin Family Experience. You're going to have the same thing. You're going to have a video. Actually, you have 2 videos in that. You're going to have an activity. You're going to have a Bible focus, and you're also going to have a prayer reminder. And I have done this. I did this actually in a church this summer in Alabama. They told me that they didn't have time for the 4-step curriculum. I said, no problem. How can we serve you? And the church said, well, we can do a KidMin night and invite all our families in. And that's what they did. So what I did was I actually led the 90-minute experience totally not simultaneously, standalone. And we gave out the free family toolkits to every one of the families that were there. So that's something that, like I said, if churches or leaders say, I just don't have enough time, you can say, hey, but we've got a 90-minute family experience. And the research from Fuller Institute has said the number one person in a child's life to contribute to their spirituality and their spiritual formation is not the children's minister, it's not the pastor, it's the parents. So that piece of research is guiding this, because we want the parents to come alongside the children and help guide them spiritually. And obviously, when we realize that spiritual formation starts with us, we start wanting to give more and start caring about people other than ourselves. And that's what this curriculum does. It gives them a way to see other people's lives and relate to it, and then also gives them an action point to sponsor with compassion. So how are churches using this right now? This is kind of cool because they're using it in conjunction with the Compassion Sunday. A lot of churches are doing 4 weeks of the curriculum with the family devotions, having their Compassion Sunday, and then the next week, sometime they're doing that 90-minute family experience. So it's a package deal if they want to do it with their Compassion Sunday. It helps give more perspective to the videos that are happening in the church service. It gives more perspective and more conversations that can be had over the dinner table. So when the family comes back to church, they're ready to do something. We also have Christian schools that are using this. I'm working with a school in Ohio right now, and they are using this curriculum, and they're stretching it out into 5 days for a whole week, for a missions week, actually in January. And so they're going to ask families to sponsor kids, and they're also going to be raising money for water, because we talk a little bit about water in here as well. So you can do it as a missions month with GAs, ACT teens, a Christian school, any kind of community group you're in. You could do a month-long focus. And then we have churches, like I said, like the one in Alabama, that just decided to do the 90-minute experience by itself, because that's the only thing that they had time in their calendar for. And we have churches that are using it for VBS curriculum. They're actually taking an hour out of their VBS programming, and they're stretching it a little bit. And when I say stretching it, because there's 4 steps, they're stretching it into 5 steps. And they're using that as their missions focus for VBS. So it's super flexible. And I think that's one of the reasons I love it. Not to mention that these are real life stories of kids growing up in poverty, and how the church and compassion has changed their lives, and how you can come alongside of kids and do the same. I think that's just about it for that curriculum. I'd love to answer any questions about this curriculum, because we're going to move on to the next set of curriculum that you can talk to churches about. But I'd love to answer any questions if you have any.
Yeah, and at this point, Lori, there's no questions that have been posted in the chat box. So if anybody has a question, please put it in there, type it in there, and I will pass it on to Lori. So while we have her during this time, get those questions out. If a question comes to you after this call, feel free to just email Matt or me, and we'll make sure Lori gets those questions. Okay. This is getting me excited again, Lori, hearing you. So keep at it.
Well, I just came back from. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. We just got another.
Yes.
We just got a question. Any plans to have
Yvonne,
Step Into
yes.
My Shoes
Yes.
kits in Latin America?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our
Other
goal
regions?
is to have one. Yeah, every single region that we work in. So we work in 4, as you know. We're hoping to have every region to be represented. So absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would encourage you, once our website goes live, to download the curriculum, and we can provide that to you as well. We just ask that you not share it with churches, because what we want to do, we want them to sign up, or we want to keep track of how many churches have gone through this curriculum. And because we're working outside of our website right now, it's really, it makes us nervous, because we're excited about it and we want churches to use it right now, but we want to make sure that we're manually keeping track of churches that we're talking to about it, because right now we don't have a way to measure that. And we just think this is going to have a huge influence. But the curriculum is 31 pages long, but that tells you that it's meaty. And like I said, it tells you exactly how long the videos are, what to say, the supplies you need. Yeah, it's super great. And again, I think I said this at the beginning, but we co-created this with Fuller Youth Institute, and that is a branch out of Fuller Seminary. And so we, like I said, have partnered with them, because they're kind of right now the experts in children and youth ministry research. They want to know, and that's where we got that quote about parents being the number one influencer for spiritual formation. That was research from FYI. So this is statistically and research based, again, from FYI. So great resource, specifically for children's ministries and churches, or anybody that works with kids. All right, let's move on to the next, because I know you guys are busy, but exciting things are happening at Compassion. This is the second resource that's just come out in the last couple of months too. And we do have a website for this one, and it's called When Compassion Meets Action. Help me, is it? Oh yeah, compassionmeetsaction.org. We couldn't put when because there was too many characters. compassionmeetsaction.org. And this is a partnership with Christian Book Distributors. And this is a small group curriculum that features John Ortberg. And if you don't know him, you should get to know him, because he's such a fabulous teacher. But he's the senior pastor at Menlo Church in Menlo Park, California. Written tons of books. Has a wife that's very famous too. Like, they legit. And really good friends with our president, Jimmy Miato. And so what happened was, and how this organically happened was, Jimmy has friends with, he has tons of friends everywhere, but he's been in so many evangelical circles. He's made friends with lots of people. And after this book, so this book right here is John Ortberg's book that came out, All the Places to Go and How Will You Know? And I read this last year. There's a small group curriculum that goes alongside with this book specifically. It's so good. So if you're looking for a new read over Christmas, this will change your life. Because, again, he used research, but basically the premise of this book right here, and it's important for you to understand this book, because this book is how this new curriculum started. There was a research study basically saying we make 70 decisions a day. Some are very important, some are not. Some are very important, like what are you going to eat? You can choose good things, you can choose not so good things. Things that are you can choose what you want to wear. Probably not that important unless you're being sketchy. So you have choices. And over the span of your life, it's 1.8 million decisions. And those decisions are basically the lump sum of what your life is worth and about. Because, you've probably heard a pastor or a preacher say, you look at your checkbook or your bank and a bank note, you can see what's a priority. It's kind of like that. The choices that we make determine how we live our life and what we do. And so that's what this book is all about. Fantastic book. So when you think about your decisions that you have on a daily basis, thinking about others and giving back and not putting yourself first beautifully marries with what compassion's about, because compassion's about broadening your world, helping a child in poverty, helping a local church make a difference through child sponsorship. So our fearless leader, Jimmy Miato, chatted with John Ortberg, and John Ortberg said, you know what? What my book is missing is an action piece. I tell them about the decisions. I talk to you about the premise and the biblical basis for, how decisions are important in our lives, but I never give them, this is what you should do about it. And Jimmy said, well, I'd love to do that. And so they began praying and thinking about what would it look like to have a curriculum that complements this, that actually gives people ways to give back and to make better decisions in their lives. So in comes When Compassion Meets Action. And what we did was we have, this is a video-based, as a lot of small group curriculum is, a video-based curriculum with a participation guide. So you watch a video, and let me go back because I want to be able to give you exactly how much time the video is and how much time. So it's basically it's 5 weeks of curriculum, and the tagline is stepping through God's open door when compassion meets action. And what I love about this too is Ann Voskamp is also a big part of this collaboration, because she actually starts the video and she tells you about her experience. And then you go into a session with Jimmy and John where they're speaking about the topic. And then you have a real life example of how that topic is played out. So for example, the first week of curriculum is called Decisions. And Jimmy and John, Ann talks about her trip to the field with her family and how that shaped her. And she traveled with us, so she's talking specifically about compassion. Jimmy and John talk about poverty and how that's important to know about and to understand that poverty is just not physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's all those things that take away from people and their worth. And we should love the poor, not out of guilt. And I love that, because people, oh, I feel so guilty. I live like this and they live like that. He turns the tide and says, you know what? You shouldn't be giving out of guilt. You should be giving out of a heart that's overflowing for God. And this is an opportunity to love one of his people. Love it. Love it. It's a different slant on how we talk about poverty, but I love it. And then you have a real life example of how decisions have changed a family. So in that first curriculum, again, I said you have Ann Voskamp talking about her experience, Jimmy and John talking for about 20 minutes, and we get to listen as a participant. And then you watch a video of a real life example. And there's a fireman and a stay-at-home mom that go to their church. They've never really done anything giving back, but they decided that God was calling them to start a Compassion Sunday at their church. And so we watch them go through that process. And then Ann Voskamp bookends it and gives us a challenge. So that's what the curriculum looks like. It's a 60-minute curriculum, 5 steps. The second one is the real reason that you're here. That's the theme for the second week. And it actually has, again, Ann Voskamp, Jimmy and John, a real life example. And the real life example is Jeremy Cowart, and he's an artist. He's a photographer, very famous photographer, photographs all the stars from Taylor Swift to Kanye. And how God has used his passion for art to give back. And he also tells a little bit about his story about how he was terrible at school, and everybody was saying that he would not amount to anything, and how he's used that as a springboard to give back. The third step is the power of your people, and it talks about decisions and how that's crucial in our life. And I love this one too, because the real life example is Kara Powell, which she's the head of FYI, Fuller Youth Institute, the one that we partner with the other curriculum. And she talks about going to the field with her family and how that's changed the DNA of her family. The fourth one is the church at its best. It's about church and children, and how children should be elevated in churches, and how compassion allows that to happen, and how it's a challenge to the Western world that we need to start looking at the children not as our future, but as our present. And I love that part. And then there's another real life example. The fifth one is when your yes spreads. And when you love, you learn how to love more. When you love, you learn how to love more. And how it's that whole concept of when you start loving someone, it grows your love meter. When you give, generosity begets generosity. You want to give more because you understand that it's not your first of all, you're just a vessel in which God is using, and things like time and talents and resources are just a way to give back to God, the things that he's given you. And I love the last piece of curriculum, the fifth part, the real life example is Richmond Wandera's story. And if you've not heard his story, it's incredible, and how God took this child with no hope, and now he's leading leaders. In the curriculum, there is not really an ask until there's an extra video called sponsorship. That it's called the Journey to Hope, and that's the ask video. And that specifically talks about how you can sponsor with compassion. It's pretty detailed. It's really, really, really good. And that's a video that I think that our teams are going to start using outside the context of this, because it's just a great Compassion Sunday video. So how do you use this? If you have a church that has just done a Compassion Sunday after Compassion Sunday and they're looking for something new, talk to them about this. This is unapologetically compassion, and so this is not a curriculum that you would not want to say. You would definitely want to say to a church, hey, this is really about giving back and how compassion works, because it's very compassion centric. But if you're talking to a church about compassion and they're just not ready yet, or a group that's not ready yet, encourage them to go through this, because this. And in the curriculum, you'll see that it tells you to read portions of this book. So they're getting a great resource with this, and this is the way to give back, the action piece. This is content, this is action. And this comes together, I'm going to kind of put it together. So you've got three pieces in here: the video curriculum, the participation guide, and then all the places you'll go and how will you know. And by the way, I didn't tell you this, but this is based on a Dr. Seuss phrase, all the places you'll go. It's a great book, but it's a really, really incredible resource. So this comes in a little kit like this, and it, goes in there. So if a church wants to, or a group wants to do this, they can order extra participation guides, because each person that goes through the study will want that, because it's a journal. That's what it is. And they'll get a copy of the book, and then they'll get a copy of the video curriculum. Let me see if there's anything else I've missed. I think that might be it. What questions do you have about this new curriculum? Again, this is for small groups, for Sunday school, it could be for adults, Sunday school, discipleship training.
I love it. And yeah, any questions though? I know Yvonne, you were anxiously waiting, chomping at the bit to be able to get more information about this. Where did you hear about it, Yvonne? Actually, I think she's muted.
Yeah, and you will need to unmute yourself, and you do have that ability to do that, each of you.
Because I saw it on the CBD catalog.
And there is a chat question there. Lori, I don't know if you see that. I think it's Stephanie that's asking, how and when can we order it?
Yeah, so you can order. So, do you want to answer that one? I mean, you can order it on compassionmeetsaction.org.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pass that to you.
And that's fine. Yes, they will be available after the first of the year. But you can order them, and you can also talk to either Matt or me, depending on who your manager is, and we can work out maybe some ways to get it for you to have it as a resource to use as well. And with the Step Into My Shoes kit, that is actually an inventory item that we can just order and get to you as well. So we can continue those discussions, and Matt and I will talk about, okay, I know there are some that have received it already, like the church partner reps. I think each received one as they work with churches, so they're familiar with that resource, and we can certainly make it available for all of you, all the advocates, especially people that are on this call and those that are going to be listening to the recording. We can make a way to get that to you. So it is an inventory.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, great question. So you can choose to read through the book. So the way the curriculum is written, it says read through when I just lost the name of it. All the places you go, pages 24 through 28, and then watch the video. Or you can leave it out. I would say if you've not read this book, I would read this book first, because it really makes sense in the context of this. But it does complement each other. It tells you to read this section, but I've just found, because I've read this book, it's so good. And I think this really builds the basis for why this action piece is so important. But yeah, the way it's written right now is you read a little section of the book, and then you watch the video, and then you do the participation guide, the journaling. But if I were leading this, I would say, let's read this read this in the next month, and then let's reread it, because it's that good.
Yeah. And for those of you that are on the phone and you're not seeing the video, you will have the recording that you can watch and actually get the visuals. But the question was, is the Ortberg book a read-through, basically, at the same time as doing the curriculum? And I could also add to that, right now I'm just reading the book. I actually started with the video, and I couldn't put it down, and I thought, I was actually going through two different lessons, and it was great content. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to put that to the side, because I really want to just read the book. And I have a gathering in New York this weekend, and there was a section that I've already marked that I'm going to be sharing during the gathering. I mean, it's really good. So other questions that are popping up are probably more for Matt and me about, one question is, so really everyone in the group needs to order the book. We're just going to just say, please wait until after the first of the year. And there is that option that it can be ordered. Lori, now let's say a church wants the resource. Do they get the option do we send that to them free, or what's the situation with that in terms of them buying?
Yeah, so what we would send to them is this kit. And the kit, Chris, good questions. You're going to get the DVD that has the 4 video lessons. You're going to get the Ortberg book, and then you're going to get 1 participation guide. So we're going to send this out to a church that's interested. If they want to do this in their church, what they're going to need, if they're going to do it in multiple groups, they're going to need to order extra participation guides and probably extra, probably everything. Like if I had 5 or 6 small, say I had 5 small groups, I would order 5 kits and then you would need to order extra participation guides for how many people are in each one of your groups. Because again, you're going to have that DVD unless you want to switch it. Like I'm going to use it on Monday and I'm going to pass the video off to my group on Thursday. But each person that goes through needs a participation guide because it's a journal and it's asking questions. It's super personal. It's going to be something that they're going to want to discuss. But there's also some very personal questions of, how did this make you feel? Where are you on the giving scale right now? Like, do you think about others? Is that the first thing? I mean, it's pretty personal. So everybody's going to want to do this. But yeah, so the kit, this is what happens, is in the kit. And then the church, there's a card in here that actually gives you the other things that they could order. And so the church can decide, okay, well, I need 7 participation guides. I only need 2 books. And this form in here actually gives the discounted prices for the church. So you get a discount, or because this is a compassion resource. We partnered with CBD and Tyndall, but this is a compassion resource, so we get a price discount on it.
Yeah, and Stephanie, in answer to your question that you have a church, in the process to deciding, let's you and I have an offline discussion about it, and I can help. We also, I want to make real clear, once this really becomes available fully, after the first of the year, we want to provide what you need to provide for the church, and we don't expect you to have to pay for that. So we will provide these resources. If you have a church you're working with, something along those lines, we want to get these things to you so you can support the church. Again, though, as the church buys multiple pieces of the curriculum, just from a stewardship point, that's something that they're going to have to typically foot the bill for. Is that typically how it's working, Lori? I know we're in a little different area with the advocates.
Yeah. So example, if they want to buy a participation guide at church through us, because this is CBD is handling all the distribution, but you're going to see it online, Yvonne, like you were saying. It's our sale price for the participation guide is $7.99. But if they buy it just randomly, it's $10.99. But again, we're going to give them the starter kit. That's what I'm kind of calling it. It's the starter kit. And then they just order what resources they need to fit their small groups. Maybe they don't buy books for everybody, or maybe they do. But I would say they probably need participation guides. That would be the minimum.
Okay. Pretty cool stuff, though. And I gotta say, I looked through the DVDs, and John Ortberg is phenomenal, and the combination of them together with Jimmy, just some pretty incredible pieces of wisdom there. So, yeah, that's definitely going to be something that I could see being really instrumental in building partnerships with churches and continuing to go deeper within, like our small group is looking at it. So. It's very cool. Thanks for sharing that, Lori. I appreciate it. I shared it in Fort Myers, Florida, 2 weekends ago, and everybody wanted one right then. So they're gonna go fast, I can tell. But okay, I'm gonna share another action step. So we've had multiple action steps. I got another one here that I want to share with you. Everybody, can you guys all hear me? Can you guys all hear me? And thank you, Lori. for sharing. Okay. Thank you, Lori. Okay. So those of you guys that are on Act with Compassion and on Facebook, I tried to send out an invitation to the Christmas with Compassion party that's coming up this Friday in South Carolina, and I realized not all of you would have the capacity to get out to South Carolina, but I wanted to send it out just as a FYI to a lot of you, just to kind of let you know what's going on. I think most of you probably received the email that had the Share the Gift Christmas party kit that you could order off of compassion.com. And I wanted to just show you that one more time because pretty cool stuff. And this kit is proving to be pretty cool. So if you're on the video, you can see this was the invitation to the Boss Christmas party that's coming up this Friday in South Carolina. Perfect example of somebody putting to use the Christmas party kit and actually having different stations at their house, this Christmas party, to be able to fund different aspects of the holiday gift catalog and get kids sponsored. They've got a Christmas tree with child packets on it and just pretty cool thing. So it's going to be, this is kind of an interesting one. It's from 2 to 8 p.m. So she actually titled it this year Christmas with Compassion Drop-In Christmas Party, because she realizes that people, have different times of the day that they're able to really make it, or maybe they've got other plans in the evening. So she scheduled hers for that time span. But just wanted to show you the link here. Again, order your Christmas party kit. It's on compassion.com / share the packet. If you can't find this on the website, we will be sending this out to you in an email that you can go to. But pretty easy here. You can register your Share the Gift party, and that'll get you your Christmas party kit. But pretty cool, timely, obviously. Here, a lot of these Christmas parties are happening at the end of November, the beginning of December. But just wanted to remind you about that, and excited. I'll actually be down in South Carolina this weekend, and we're inviting even advocates in the nearby area. And so if you have any ideas or want to brainstorm, let Rick or I know, and we'll be happy to make sure that you get all the materials that you do need. So that's the latest on Share the Gift. I'm going to pass it off to Rick, and he's got some more updates for you. Take it away, Rick.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Back in August, when we had our first round of Zoom calls, the question came up about survival, child survival, and some changes that were happening with it. So there were some questions brought up, and we promised that we would, number one, send out an email response about survival, and we did that. I think a couple weeks after those Zoom calls, we sent out some details in writing about how survival would change. And we also said that we would share it on our next Zoom call. So I just want to kind of give you, in the limited time we have left, kind of give you an overview of what is different about survival and really what's the same. And a lot of this has come out of, because the infant mortality rates are still remaining pretty high in certain areas of the world. And so because of that, we felt like it was important to have a redesign that would help meet those needs, and also have a more sustainable model that would really make an impact deeper than what we already are. And I can tell you, we are already making a huge, deep impact through child survival. So just to give you an idea of the child mortality rate, 2015 numbers, 5.9 million kids under 5 died, and that equates to 16,000 per day. And then out of that, 45% of those under 5 deaths occurred in the first 28 days of life. So nearly half of those 16,000 per day that were dying in the first 28 days of life. So survival has undergone some changes. Some things that have stayed the same. child survival is still home-based. It's home-based programming. It's the focus on the mom and the baby together. There's a comprehensive education and prenatal care, early childhood or early child rearing, discipling the moms. If any of you have ever visited one of the survival centers around the world, you know that community is so important, and those moms being together and supportive of each other. Income generation or generating, some of those type of things are also a part of it. Teaching literacy. There's all of those pieces that you've come to know about child survival are still in place, are still happening. It's still what it is. What's really changed, and I think this is the thing that we hit on in August, but it's worth repeating again, and also, again, getting it out to everybody on this recorded call, is that we have sponsorship at age 1 now. So one of the things that was happening with child survival is there was a specific number that we could, capacity-wise, that could be in a program. So, and we called them mother-child units. So let's say that number was 30. Once there were 30 mother-child units in a survival program, it had reached capacity, and it just stayed at that number. And great care, great home-based care and programming was taking place. But there were still other moms, expectant moms, that desperately needed what was happening in the survival program, and there just wasn't capacity for them to come in. So now what's happened is the funding model has changed in terms of, you have an expectant mom enter the survival program, and then when she has her baby, and with the great care that's taking place, the baby is thriving, and then at age 1, there's a sponsorship happening with the child, and actually it's interesting. I just received a child packet in the mail today, and it was a 1-year-old. So this is a child that is in the survival program, and is receiving all the benefits of the survival program, and they do that for the first 36 months for 3 years. But this child's available for sponsorship. So what that does then is it allows another mom to come into the program, another baby to come into the program, because it opens up, with the funding, it opens up additional capacity, additional room to bring more in. So that's incredible. It's much more fluid. We do have one model. It's not like we're all these isolated programs, like child survival's here and child sponsorship is here, and we use the leadership development program that is phasing out is a separate program. They're not separate. It's one model, and so bringing the child into the child sponsorship, even at age 1, provides incredible opportunities for the program itself. So, and I actually have a list of some things that survival programming includes. Obviously, checkups for the mom, informal assessments, the child development progress report, age-appropriate curriculum. There are still the home visits, even within those first 3 years. Everything that you know about survival is still happening. I do know that, and I've seen some of these things as well. There's a toddler e-news now, that somebody that sponsors a toddler gets an e-news that really is pertinent and applicable to sponsoring a toddler. Obviously, in the letter writing's happening. Obviously, you're not going to have a 2-year-old writing a letter, but you can get the handprints of a 2-year-old, and maybe some communication from somebody there, a survival specialist, maybe something from the mom. So you do have the relationship that's being built there. And then that child, at age 3 or so, then transitions into the CDSP, the Child Development Through Sponsorship Program. And so you continue to sponsor the child at that, while they seamlessly go into that part of the program. So That's basically it in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it that we can continue to inform and educate on. And I know we're getting to the top of the hour, so I wanted to share one more thing. Actually, I have two more things to share, and one is just because I've been getting a lot of communications on this, and I know Matt's received some as well. There is some confusion about how to deconsign child packets. Let's say you have your event and you have 5, 6, 10 packets that you want to deconsign to get those kids in the system quickly. We know that when the changing of the child numbers, they added some digits, which helped set us up for for growth. That the web page to deconsign packets on no longer applied because there were more digits in the child number, the new child numbers, than there were in the with the web page for deconsigning packets. So because of that, we do have a workaround that's in place. Our IT department does have it on their list of things to update. They haven't gotten to it yet. So eventually hopefully that deconsignment web page will be updated with the appropriate number of digits. But for now, we do have a way to get the packets deconsigned. It is via an email, so Matt and I can forward the email to you as needed. I know it's one of those things that if you don't need it now, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So just let us know. We can send you the email that has all those details, and we may include it in a future email communication as well. I do have one last thing to share. Matt, do you have anything else while I'm getting ready here? I think you're on mute. I think you're still on mute. Something's.
Am I still muted?
Nope, you're good now.
There? Sorry. No, I was just going to say, with any of this stuff, just let us know, what kind of, I know it's kind of overwhelming. I guess I would just say, if any of them, kind of inspired you, or you felt like you wanted to go deeper on, just shoot us an email, and, we'll go deeper in thinking about, how you could marry one of these with Compassion Sunday, or whatever the case may be.
Okay, great. And we're going to close our time together. I have an audio to share with you. It's 90 seconds long. Kind of interesting. Julie Patterson, a longtime advocate in Indiana, she had the opportunity to have an Orphan Sunday this past week at a fairly new church that she and her husband Jeff have joined. And so this was her very first Compassion presentation, and she was basically told, okay, you have this much time. And so she showed a 2-minute and 30-second video from Compassion Sunday's resources. And then they told her you have about 30 to 45 seconds to talk afterwards. And when she had that amount, she was like, and she sent me an email and just said, like, how am I going to talk in that short amount of time? So she actually sent me the link to this audio last night. And so I wanted to share this with you because I think it's a great example. The thing that really impressed me about this is she never seems rushed. Now she told me, she said, I didn't keep it to 45 seconds. I went to 90 seconds. But I want to share her presentation here, and she gave me her permission to do this. So hopefully you can hear this well.
A child is waiting for you.
Good morning. My name is Julie Patterson, and my husband Jeff and I are members here at Trinity. We're also child advocates for Compassion International, and we've been sponsoring children with Compassion since 1985. We have personally seen the impact that sponsorship has made in the lives of our sponsored children. We know that Compassion works. We've exchanged letters with our sponsored children, and and we've watched many of them grow into young adults. We have visited several of our sponsored children in places like Brazil, Haiti, Indonesia, and Kenya. And we know that they are receiving life-changing health care, education, food, and Bible teaching. And we know that each and every one of them has had the opportunity to come to know Jesus as their personal Savior and to grow in faith. Today is Orphan Sunday. So many of the children that we have at our sponsorship tables today have lost one or both of their parents. So come see Jeff or I at the sponsorship table for more information or to start the sponsorship today. The life that's changed may actually be your own. Let me leave you with a verse from Psalm 82. Defend the weak and the fatherless, uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Thanks.
And 5 children's lives were changed, as well as the people that stepped up and said, yes, I want to sponsor a child today. So 5 kids were sponsored, and I just think that's a great example of how to share in a really limited amount of time. And she never sounded rushed. So with that, I know many of you have had those same types of experiences and opportunities. And again, on behalf of Matt and Lori, who was with us, thanks so much for spending this hour with us. It's been a great, rich hour together. Please let us know if there's anything you need, any questions that still pop up. We'll continue the discussion around these resources that Lori shared with us today, and how to get those to you. And so just greatly appreciate you being here today and taking the time to listen in and view. So let me close with prayer, and then we'll close it out. Father God, we just thank you for this time that we can be together. Lord, I thank you for each person that's been a part of this call this afternoon. God, we just thank you that you are at work, and that I just thank you for how Julie shared even, and how lives were changed, and it's one child at a time. And God, we just praise you. We give you all glory and honor, and thank you that you call us to this ministry to be a voice for precious kids who don't have one in many, many situations. God, we love you. Again, I thank you for each of these servants, your children on this call today. And it's in your Son's holy and powerful name we pray. Amen. And may everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. God bless you all. Thanks.